Hello everyone, hope you all are doing good. Welcome back to this channel named Inside Angle and this series named Upper Edge. This is the second episode of this series, and in this very video I'm going to talk about my strategy or my study related plan, etc. for the subject of financial reporting, that is paper 1. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll divide this video into 4 parts. The first being how to and how much to study FR, how much time to devote to it, and at what points of time. The second being what all materials are supposed to be used, which is a very frequently asked question. The third is a specific topic related suggestions that I would like to give. And the fourth would be general tips related to exams. So starting with the first part right now. So basically, like in the earlier video related to SCMP, I stated that in the first year of your articleship, it is preferable to complete these 3 subjects, that is SFM, FR, and SCMP in this particular order. The reason I would like to suggest you to pick up FR first. First, as in either it could be picked up very first, that is before SFM, or you could take up SFM first, followed by FR. The reason I'm asking you to take it up in priority is in articleship, whether you are in tax or audit or both, generally speaking, Ind AS, you'll be required to have at least the basic knowledge of Ind AS, particularly if you are dealing with corporates in your articleship. So in that case, it is very much advisable for you to start knowing Ind AS in the very initial period of your articleship. Otherwise, a lot of things will go above your head. You'll feel like getting bouncer balls in your articleship. So बेसिकली फर्स्ट ईयर के अंदर ट्राई कीपिंग एसएफएम, उसके बाद एफआर एंड एससीएमपी, और यू कुड टेक अप एफआर पहले. राइट, सो दैट इज वन थिंग. आपका फर्स्ट ईयर में एफआर हो जाएगा. देन इन द आई मीन आई वुड से दैट बिफोर योर स्टडी लीव स्टार्ट, आई वुड से इट इज प्रेफरेबल दैट यू गेट डन विथ एफआर वंस. इन फैक्ट आई वुड लाइक टू कोट माय फ्रेंड ब्रमर इन सेइंग दैट दिस फ्रेंड कुड बी और दिस सब्जेक्ट कुड बी योर बेस्ट फ्रेंड और योर वर्स्ट एनिमी, बिकॉज एक जनरल परसेप्शन रहता है कि एफआर इज अ वेरी टफ सब्जेक्ट एंड जनरली पीपल हैव फोबिया अराउंड इट the moment they start with CA final. While and in my case also I had that phobia. But then actually when I was done with the subject, when I did that self study for once, I felt that it is probably not as tough as it is perceived to be. Obviously it is going to be tough, but then it is manageable at the end of the day once you get done with it. So yeah, it is preferable that you get done with it in the first year itself. I had taken my lectures which were around 300 hours. Most of the faculties give lectures of that duration. So yes, FR lectures are long enough, but then trust me, it is very much justified to have those long hours. It is preferable not to take fast check lectures so far as FR is concerned, because you will require that bit of conceptual knowledge, not just for the purpose of exams, but also in the longer run. You will require to have that in-depth knowledge so far as FR is concerned, right? So yeah, 300 hours, which means approximately probably you'll require anywhere around 3.5 months to complete the subject of FR, I mean in terms of the lectures. Now I will suggest you to keep good notes whenever and from wherever you take your lectures, because these notes are going to turn out to be very useful whenever you do your self study, right? So that's one thing. And during your articleship also, you might want to refer to those notes that you might have prepared. So yeah, preparing good self notes is very important alongside your lectures. I would suggest that before your study leave start, at least FR is one subject which you should get done with from your end. So either you do it alongside the lectures, or you do it alag se, that is before your study leave start. That is what I would personally suggest. So I had I was probably done with around 60 to 70% of the FR syllabus from my end before my study leave started. So just to get probably a knack of the subject, because obviously I had that phobia, like I mentioned, till that moment as well. But once I got done with that 60-70% before my study leaves, I was at peace. So that is one thing that I would like to suggest before your study leaves. Try to do that self-study of 60-70%. So when I say before your study leaves, in 3-4 months before your study leave start, you can start the self-study from your end, little every day, right? Because ये problem तो रहता ही है कि because inter का आपने 2-3 साल पहले पढ़ा होता है, so it is very difficult to sit for long hours and study for long hours. So you need to start from little, which I would say could be 1 hour, could be 2 hours a day as well. I would suggest do that for FR, because it is a practical subject per se. It will not be as difficult for you to actually study FR before your study leaves. You can start little by little. And in fact, when I say practical subject, there's also a misconception about FR that there's a lot of theory involved. No doubt there is, because there are too many concepts, so there has to be theory around those concepts as well. But at the end of the day, trust me that it is a practical subject and not a theory subject. So yeah, frequently asked question is this, as to whether it is a practical or a theory subject. I would say it is totally a practical subject and not a theory subject. Yes, there is a lot of theory involved, which I will talk about in the specific topic wise guidance that I will give in the fourth part of this video, third part of this video. But then I would like to say that the theory part is very relevant only in the first or the second reading, where you are trying to gain your conceptual knowledge for the subject. Once you get a good knack of that theoretical part, you can directly jump to the practicals and go about it. So trust me, FR is not very tough this way, the way it is perceived to be in the initial 1 year or 2 years of your articleship. That is one thing. So jumping to the study leave now. Of the first reading, I mean, assuming you are done with at least 50, 60, 70% of FR self-study before study leaves. So even if you now again do that 50, 60%, which I did, so I started from scratch in my study leaves, even though I was done with 60, 70%, I would say around 14, 15 days should be fine for you to complete FR all over, right? So first reading should take you anywhere between 14, 15 days, because we need to appreciate the fact that FR and DT are the two subjects which are very, very lengthy as compared to the other subjects. So I would say FR will take you about 15 days to complete. For the first reading. The second reading, I would say, should take second reading or the revision. That is, this I'm talking about the study leaves should take you, second reading should take you around 7 days. And the third reading, I think, would be optional on you. So in my case, what I had done was I did not go for the third reading so far as FR was concerned. I instead directly took a week before my FR exams. Given the fact that FR is my first exam, I directly took a week or 8 days before my FR exam. You have two options. Either you take you go for the approach that I went, that is a week before the FR exams directly, or else you go for the third revision, probably, which would take you around 3 to 4 days, and then again before your exams you could take anywhere between 3 to 4 days. That is totally your choice depending on your personal preference. In my case, the third reading, that was before the FR exams, I took 7-8 days, and for the first 5-6 days I completed the course for once, and the last 2 days I again just revised things quickly. I mean, not everything, but then all those things that I had marked I would require to revise in the last 2 days. I did that in the last 2 days. So yeah, that is pretty much about when to study FR. So take your lectures in the first year. Try to go for the full course lectures instead of the fast track thing. 300 hours, that is 3.5 months. The readings, so try doing at least good part of FR before your study leave starts, so that, because you need to get away with that phobia before you actually start with your study leaves. And trust me, it will become very manageable once you self-study FR for once. So try doing that self-study before your study leaves. Within the study leaves, first reading 15 days, second reading should be 7 days, third reading optional, like I said, either 3-4 days or directly before the exams 1 week, the thing that I had done. So this is about when to study FR. As to which materials to use, to be honest, so I did use my faculty notes in the first reading. That is, before my study leave started, I used to use my faculty notes. But then beyond a point, I actually realized that, to be honest, FR, the way papers have been or the way sums have been asked, I think SM should be your holy book, and it should be your Bhagavad Gita, Bible, whatever, because each and everything probably SM is very exhaustive, and I would say FR study material is one of the best across all the subjects. So I would say certainly FR should be the only book that you should refer. Apart from, like in my case, I had referred to Bhavik Chokshi sir's FR Shield, which is actually kind of a summary book, a book which is having all the concepts given in a gist, so which helps you to revise quickly. So it has all the concepts given with small illustrations or examples for you to go through that theoretical part very quickly. So which is a very useful book. In my case, I had gone through it. That is FR Shield. That is Bhavik Chokshi sir's FR Shield book. Apart from that, so far as sums and all are concerned, I referred only study material. Obviously, over and above study material, you will be required to go through the past RTPs, MTPs, and past papers without fail. I mean, they are very important. In fact, every attempt RTP FR is one of the RTPs which has very tough new questions that are given in the RTP. Not to say that they are being asked in the exam, but then going through those RTPs is must, which help you actually clear your conceptual knowledge. So certainly going through RTPs, MTPs, and past papers is a must, that I would say. You could probably go through one directly. I mean, instead of going through each RTP one by one, you could instead directly take up a compiler as well. So in my case, I had referred to Rahul Mankan sir's compiler, which had all the RTP and past paper sums divided chapter wise. So that saves a lot of time, because there's a lot of duplication. If you see, the same sum is given in one of the past RTPs / past papers, and the same sum is also given in the module. So you'll have to refer the same sum twice. Instead, you can probably refer the compiler as well. So that is one suggestion. So in any case, for practicals, I would say practicals just refer to the study material. Okay, within the study material, illustrations and test your knowledge is obviously a given. Apart from that, also all those small examples that are given in the study material, for the first reading, you should certainly go through all those examples, because all those examples also have a likelihood of being asked in the exams. You may, I mean, goes without saying again, the practical number of practicals are more than, I guess, 500, 600 or even more so far as the FRSM is concerned, and you will have to cut down the number gradually as you go by the readings. I mean, go on doing further readings. So which is a must. But in the first reading, I will suggest you to go through all the illustrations, test your knowledge questions, and all the examples as well. So far as the practical part is concerned, again repeating for theory as well, you have two options: either go through the study material in the first, first go through the entire study material and make your own concepts notes, which is again very useful, to be honest. But then make sure you do it in the first reading itself, because otherwise, as you approach exams, you will not have enough time to probably make your own notes. That is one thing. Alternatively, you may probably refer to your faculty's summary notes if you feel that is something that is useful to you, if you trust those notes completely. Or in my case, like I refer to Bhavik Chokshi sir's FR Shield book, so that is also very useful. So far as concepts are concerned, I think either make your own notes, but from the study material, or refer to your faculty's notes, which again would prove to be useful, because in a short period of time you would like to revise all the concepts. Apart from this, so far as practicals are also concerned, now moving to the third part of this video. So for I guess the few chapters that are very important, generally perceived also, are business combination, consolidation, Ind AS 115, 116. I guess and obviously financial instruments. How can I forget? So going through these topics one by one. Financial instruments, the question that is often asked is as to whether those small illustrations which are theory oriented or concepts oriented are actually important from the exam's viewpoint. I would like to give a diplomatic answer over here. So a one word answer would be not very important. But then the real answer that I would like to give is, obviously practicals is something that is being mostly tested so far as financial instruments are concerned. But this is what historical trend says. Going forward, those concepts or theory questions may also be tested. But I would say, so far as financial instruments is concerned, there are ample number of those theoretical questions, which is certainly impossible to refer to the week before or the day before exam. So what I would suggest is practicals, obviously 100% priority should be given to the practicals so far as financial instruments are concerned. And when I say practicals, I'm not just trying to say the bigger sums, but also those smaller sums which could be asked in probably a 5 marker or an 8 marker, which is actually true. So in those small illustrations in the initial few units of financial instruments that are there, those small illustrations also have a possibility of being asked in a 5 marker or a 4 marker or a 10 or an 8 marker. Those small practical sums, basically, let us say simply splitting between the compound financial instruments, simply splitting between the liability and the equity component. So pay attention to those small practical sums as well as the bigger practical sums. So far as the theory sums are concerned, theory questions are concerned, I would say try to prepare your own notes. Own summary notes, because it is humanly impossible to actually go through all those small illustrations the day before exam, and many times it actually becomes confusing as well. So, but you may go through them in the first reading and then prepare your own notes, so that in the subsequent readings you can focus just on the practical part plus the concept notes that you would have prepared for yourself. Right. This is so far as FI is concerned. 116 I feel is probably a very manageable and easy and an interesting chapter. In fact, I would say it is a very scoring chapter once you actually understand the logic behind it. So 116, if you've practiced enough sums, you will actually find it to be very interesting and probably very scoring as well. One thing that you could do is probably write down the types of sums that 116 has, write down the type of steps. Once you do that, once you figure out the logic behind the sums of Ind AS 116, I think it'll become very easy for you. Talking about 115, 115 also has a number of questions. Over here, I will suggest a strategy a little similar to FI, but still a little different. 115, there is obviously a very good possibility of those theoretical questions being asked, but then you could always resort to your own concept notes that you will prepare basis the sums of Ind AS 115. But trust me, Ind AS 115 is very important. You can take it as a given that Ind AS 115 ka question पूछेंगे ही पूछेंगे. It is certainly a given. So that way, Ind AS 115 should not be ignored, no matter how difficult you find it to be. Try to pay specific attention to Ind AS 115 during your classes. Try to make good concept notes out of it and a good summary out of it. In fact, I'd like to mention over here that Bhavik Chokshi sir's revision lectures are also there. So I had referred to his revision lectures for, I think, Ind AS 115 and 116 and Ind AS 101 as well. He has good 1 hour revision lectures. So I went through those. These revision lectures came to resort probably in the second reading, because in my case, there was a good gap between my first reading and the second reading. And also, in fact, there was a gap between the time I took the lectures and the time I actually started my self-study. So these revision lectures do come to rescue at that point of time. That apart, so coming back, Ind AS 115, there are lot many sums. You'll have to do that ABC categorization from your end. Try summarizing those questions as much as possible and then cutting down for the next reading. So far as business combination and consolidation is concerned, I guess, again, there are lot many questions, but certainly can be cut down hugely. Can literally be cut down to probably 10-20% of the total number. And for bigger sums of consolidation of business combination, I would suggest that you probably can create a format at your end, or maybe a specimen which you can resort to and refer to even 1 hour before the exam. And you can maybe write down your steps, the way you would go about solving the big sums at your end as well. So that is something that you could use so far as the chapters of business combination and consolidation are concerned. Again, there's a question as to whether to refer to the theory so far as these two chapters are concerned. I would say those theory which comes to application, I mean, so far as probably the ownership structure or probably whether there is a control or not, such questions may be tested, specifically talking about business combination. Again, tested in 5 markers, but your good concept notes will help you solve these theory questions if at all they are asked in exams as well. So again, a strategy similar to what I suggested in FI should be followed over here, because you cannot seriously keep all the sums for every next reading, every subsequent reading, because otherwise in that case आपका पूरा time तो business combination, consolidation, FI 115, 116 में ही चले जाएगा, which cannot afford. And this is one thing that I wanted to point out so far as FR is concerned. Try not to leave any topic. I mean, for example, there are people who probably tend to skip Ind AS 101. Now, though this has not happened, but then I do foresee a scenario, an attempt where Ind AS 101 का बड़ा question could be asked probably as a compulsory question in question 1. And trust me, Ind AS 101 is not that tough that one would probably leave that an option. And when it comes as a compulsory question, you have to attempt it. So in that case, try not to skip any topic in FR and probably instead just focus on a few topics. That is not something that I would like to suggest you. Try cover all the topics. So basically, Ind AS 101 was just an example that I was giving. It applies to all other small topics as well. I mean, for example, chapter 1, chapter 2, or for example, analysis of financial statements as well. These topics do get tested in the exam. So it is preferable not to leave these topics. So try to have a holistic coverage of so far as the FR course is concerned, instead of probably just focusing on business combination FR 116 and 115 and FI. Obviously, these topics are more important than the others, but then try to cover the entire course, because this is what I have noticed. So my analysis so far as the FR question papers go, for the last few attempts, I have noticed personally that the papers are not out of the world. I mean, they are manageable, I would say. A good number of questions are being asked directly from the SM. I mean, obviously with the figures change, but then these questions are particularly manageable. But the two things that I've noticed about FR papers which make them difficult is the fact that they are lengthy. Without a doubt, FR exam papers are very lengthy. That's what I've been noticing. And the second part is that the second thing is that they are probably a holistic coverage of the topics. In which case, those who have not covered each and every topics, or those who probably skip those smaller Ind ASs are particularly at a loss and cannot attempt the entire paper because they've skipped a few topics. So these are the two things. Now, so far as the holistic coverage is concerned, that would satisfy the second point. Now, coming to the paper being lengthy. Now, there are twofold reasons again because of which people find it lengthy. Because the first is FR is the first paper, right? So that is when probably people write after very long, and your hands start aching at that point of time because you've not written anything since very long. That happens with most of the people, and then you are expected to write a very lengthy paper. And then at the back of the mind, many times you get set in the examination environment. So that first exam, you will take that time as well to get settled, and the first paper itself is very lengthy. So for this reason, I would say, specifically so far as FR is concerned, try to write and solve the sums whenever you practice those, at least in the first reading, and for subsequent readings as well. Or in fact, I would say you should try and write 2 or 3 mocks. Now, when I say mocks, I'm not saying write the MTPs, because many times, honestly, MTPs are not the standard question papers, because many times MTPs are way more lengthier. Many times they have very easy questions. So you cannot judge your speed basis MTPs. I would say you can maybe write the past exam questions itself to test your speed and your knowledge as well. So that is something that you should certainly do for FR, if not any other subject. That is certainly something. So basically, so far exams are concerned, 2 things. One, or rather 3 things. One, try to have a holistic coverage. Second, try to maintain a very good speed so that you can complete a paper. For maintaining a very good speed, you will have to practice enough papers before the exam. And the third, last but not the least, is that you should you should make a good choice of questions. I can elaborate on this in a subsequent video, probably when I cover specifically related to exams. And in fact, I have spoken about the questions coverage in one of the episodes of the final battle, which you can go through. So yeah, pretty much this is what I would like to convey. So the fact that FR requires you to put a lot of time so far as practicing things are concerned, 300 hours lectures. Try to have one self-study before the study leaves. Within the study leaves, 2 readings, one 15 days, second 7 days, third reading either 3-4 days, or club it with the last reading before, the last few days before the exam. Do have writing practice, practical questions. Try to make your concept notes, which will expedite your learning like anything, because that way you'll not have to put in too much of time so far as theory questions or theory notes are concerned. So concept notes of theory in FR are very, very important. Trust me. And then post this, I would say, I think writing practice of 2-3 question papers would do. Yeah, one additional point I would like to put in is, so like I had mentioned, so far as the reference material are concerned, your concept theory notes plus the study material practical questions is just enough to do FR. Trust me, obviously, coupled with the RTP, MTPs as well. I will try to share a link of the compiler that I had referred for my attempt, the RTP compiler of Rahul Malkan sir that I mentioned. Also, over and above that, I mean, if depending on how much conceptual clarity you want to gain, there's something called as an educational material that ICAI releases for each Ind AS, right? I will share a link of those educational materials as well. Those educational materials do have questions similar to those that are there in the study material, and they have a chance of being asked in the exams, though not historically tested in exams, may be tested in future. So anyone who feels that you want to do extra practice instead of probably solving any IFRS question, I will suggest you to go through these educational materials, because this is an ICAI source which has a possibility. I'm not sure of how big the possibility is, but it still has some possibility of being tested in exam. So if you feel you have enough time or want to gain a good conceptual clarity, going through these educational materials does make sense. Maybe not in the study leaves, but if you have done it in the first readings and shortlisted the sums, it does make sense. So I will share the link of the educational materials as well. So that is one. Second is the compiler that I mentioned. That is two. Third is I will also share a link of the revision videos that I saw of Bhavik Chokshi sir. That is three. And fourth, I will share with you all the certified copy of my FR. I scored 86 marks in FR in the July 21 attempt. So I will share that link as well in the description of this video. Apart from this, stay tuned to this channel. I will try bringing other videos for other subjects as soon as possible. And apart from that, if you have any particular query or anything that you would like me to address in the forthcoming videos, do mention it in the comments. Thanks a lot for watching. Do share this video with all of your friends, may it be May 22 or November 22 or any of the further attempts. I'm sure it will be useful to them. And do mention in the comments what you did or did not like about this video. Thanks a lot for watching again. Stay tuned. Bye bye.